Thank you, opposition. Mr. Judicator, before I redefine some of the things that we stated in our plan, I want to acknowledge the opposition's statements about banning all forms of gambling online. And I'd like to acknowledge that they are going down a slippery slope fallacy in an attempt to link this between alcoholism and domestic violence. Also, they will be taking away from a lot of our federal freedoms, and it would be an attack on the 10th Amendment by banning all forms of gambling, like the opposition wanted to state. So now that I've kind of acknowledged that that the opposition has gone down a very slippery slope and is making an attack on our federal freedoms as Americans. Now, I also would like to redefine a couple of things. When we say substantially, which we want to define that as great or significant change. And so our plan is going to change the current laws. And what that will do is improve the harm of the vague laws that currently exist, and we will solve those vague laws with the identification cards that we had outlined. Also, a harm will be that there is an unfair advantage in gaming, and that along with will go with the identifying employees. With the ability to identify these employees, we will be able to ban them from participating in the games that are occurring on a daily basis. And that is why so many of these people are, the 15% that the opposition have acknowledged is because this is a daily activity. If you're a gambler, you're a gambler. Some people selectively gamble, and some people gamble on a regular basis. And the reason why that there's a high concentration of people participating in this is because of the rapidness of it, because it's daily fantasy sports, and also the fact that it's sports. Not everyone in this room is interested in sports. And if you would allow me to define what a fantasy sport is, which is a game where participants assemble imaginary or virtual teams of professional sports. So you have to be quite a follower of a sport or several sports to even participate in this to have any type of profit. If you are not a follower of this sport, you're not going to profit. Therefore, my opposition acknowledged that very few gamers actually win in this daily fantasy sports because there is not a variety of participation like here in Nevada. So without passing more laws to identify and protect gamers, what we will be doing is allowing the unfairness going, and our plan will solve this because of the unlawful intent of gambling that is currently going on. Also, I wanted to re-acknowledge the how we will be funding our plan. We'll be funding our plan through the revenues of these daily fantasy websites, like the opposition acknowledged, and we all will acknowledge in here. Not just online gaming, but gambling in general is a very profitable business, and it allows for institutions like this to exist. It allows for freedoms to exist, and and that is something to entice life, and it's a possibility of increasing the ability to have a higher quality of life. also wanted to go over just a second by who will be enforcing these. Just in case it is not very clear, it is going to be the Gaming Control Board, who is already in existence. So this is something that is already in existence and has a normal means. And if there is an excess of work, again, the funding will be coming from the revenue of these websites. And so just to kind of restate everything in our plan, we want to increase and change the laws of which is in existence for, yes?
Just to be clear, you stated in your plan text that you want the agent of action and the agent of enforcement to be the Federal Reserve Board.
That is, the Federal Reserve Board is over the
law.
The Gaming Control Board. So they enforce and regulate the Gaming Control Board.
Okay.
So there's enforcement, and that's the agency.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So to restate, our plan will be to identify all gamers, to protect the gamers and the act of gambling, to allow a fair playing board, a fair play across the board for everyone to have fun, which is the point of gambling or gaming, as we've stated. And we will be enforcing this through the Gaming Control Board, and it will be funded through websites, current revenue, and without the change will come unfair and cheating and a more monopolized play of participants that are currently doing the gaming. And this will allow control or maintenance of all gaming for fairness. Thank you, Mr. Judicator.
So I'll be going off case in order and then on case in order. Starting now. Good morning, Mr. Judicator. I like that one, guys. I'm gonna use that one more. First I want to start off by acknowledging. I'll be acknowledging our counter plan. They said that it's a slippery slope. That if we make these progress of stopping online gaming, we'll be infringing on our 10th Amendment right. Our 10th Amendment is all laws not given to the federal government by the Constitution would be therefore given to the states. But this 10th Amendment doesn't apply to online gaming. It's an international, multinational cooperation. It is not stuck in one state like a casino. So you see, it's not in violation of the 10th Amendment. So going on off case. First, I just want to just judge flow across both the disadvantage and the advantage for the counter plan. They did not refute our claims that how the reasons why we're getting rid of this gambling is bad. We'll see, and we have a warrant to say that gambling is directly linked to domestic violence. And this is where you're going to be voting on today, Judge. According to the National Council of Problem Gambling, 25% to 50% of spouses of compulsive gamblers suffer from domestic violence. They want to talk about the reason why the problems with problems with online gambling is the accessibility. It's true. This allows for the everyday Joe to gamble incessantly, only increasing the chances of domestic violences on his or her spouse. So flow the disadvantage to the reason why that. Okay, on to my, what was it? This is gambling bad. Oh, right here. So insider, we both agree that fantasy gambling is rigged. We just don't agree on how we can stop that. So my advantage number one is very similar to some of their solvency, or maybe it's harm one, or no, I think it's harm two. But the only problem is okay, if you relate our advantage number one to their harm number two, you see that their harm number two is not solved by their plan. They're saying that this would prevent employees from gambling on their own sites. But as my partner pointed out, the recent portrayal of insider trading that is the gambling or fantasy gambling industry has been perpetrated by an employee of one fantasy site onto another site. So if their plan only stops the gambling on the personal site, then they're not solving for anything. Because we have examples of how it works. So onto their plan. Okay, first I want to just bring. They pointed out that gambling allows for such freedoms like the University of Reno. It is a beautiful campus. I agree with you on that one. But they want to say that gambling can lead to a higher quality of life. I stayed in the casino last night. Walking around there, I didn't see anyone bettering the quality of their life anywhere. But okay, well, that's besides the point. That's a casino. We're talking about fantasy sports. But the fantasy sports, the reasons why it hurts the everyman is the accessibility. The fact that it's the fact that it's every day. This is why we must get rid of it. Gambling leads to gambling addiction. Gambling addiction leads to domestic violence, and as well as my impacts and my advantage number two. So they want to point out that we want to protect gamers from insider trading. And they say, but then they want to say that it's skill, not luck. That's why we shouldn't ban this. They say skill, not luck. Well, how is it that these CEOs and insiders in these organizations are winning so much money? It's because they're dealing with algorithms, and they understand how the game works on a mathematical level. They've only achieved this because they're insiders in this organization. The ID cards does not stop insider gaming. Their plan has no solvency. They want to say that they're going to stop vague laws by mandating ID cards. That's not stopping vague laws. That's just adding more vague laws on top of it. And they did not speak on underage gambling. The only way to stop these vague laws, this insider gaming, and for underage gambling, is to get rid of fantasy sports completely. So I want to just touch on their harm too. It's the insider trading game. It's our advantage number one, I believe. So you see, if you add these up, only our plan solves for stopping insider gaming. Well, that's what we'll call it here. So by getting rid of online gaming, getting rid of this insider trading of the online gaming as well, it will decrease corruption that is evident in the status quo, evident in the winning of the one officer from FanDuel winning in the opposite DraftKings. So I just want to speak on there, the reasons to prefer the counter plan. The reasons to prefer the counter plan is not only does it solve all of their harms, it distinctly solves for our disadvantage and our advantage. That children will not be able to get into gambling if there is no online gambling. The accessibility of not having to travel to a casino will cut down on domestic violence, and it will stop it will stop unfairness completely. Thank you.
So I'll win. So, just to sum it all up for you, Judge, I'm going to explain why the negative should definitely win this round. We've explained to you how our counter plan should definitely be favored, how it eliminates all the harms that they've already brought up in their first affirmative and in their second affirmative. We've stated how this will not only decrease alcoholism, how this will put more money in the people's pockets instead of in these big gambling corporations' pockets, and hopefully how it will definitely decrease domestic violence. How it will definitely decrease domestic violence. We've explained how all gambling is bad, but how eliminating fantasy online sports gambling should definitely help not only the home, but hopefully definitely the economy as well. You're not infringing on any civil liberties. You still have the ability to go to a casino and gamble if you would like, but our counterplan is specifically eliminating a kind of gambling not only targeted at those who wish to stay home, but also children. And those in a mid to low quality of life or mid to low income range. Want to decrease corruption. Want to decrease corruption, and we want to allow gambling to be all that it already is. Online fantasy gambling, in our opinion, is changing how the gambling world is supposed to be and not truly allowing. Not truly allowing for fairness in the gambling world. There we go. As far as we found out, the only way to stop these negative harms and the only way to achieve solvency, as they would like to, is to get rid of online fantasy gambling altogether. That all being said, vote for the next.
All right, as the affirmative, we are for strictly making sweeping reform to the current laws that are enacted regulating fantasy sports services. Like you said, we don't want to solve the harms of domestic violence. We're focusing on what is wrong with the actual gaming system and how we can improve it. Our advantages are basically the freedoms of these businesses to run such profitable businesses. Imagine taking away these gambling establishments in a small community that basically runs off of revenue. These
Point of order, small communities being run by gambling or by online sports.
Reno has the community that exists on the revenue.
Is it fantasy online sports?
Yeah, part of it.
I definitely have in the MG that gambling allows for institutions, higher I think there's a slight difference in characterization to more general small communities. Take it under consideration. It sounds a little bit new, but I definitely have something like it in the MG. So just kind of watch your phrasing.
So we're planning on changing these laws that are enacted, putting regulations such as ID cards, getting these gambling services more protections against all these disadvantages that are going on in the system already. The owner that sees the opportunity to gamble and take a profit. The unfair vague laws. And we think that these IDs will solve for a more cohesive kind of plan that regulate what's going on in the gaming industry, in the fantasy league industry. So you said that the quality of life would not be improved, but like our plan does, we have these businesses that get people in their establishment, get them playing, get them active in gaming. It's a sport. If you're into sports, you have to be into sports in order for these fantasy leagues. So getting away with such a huge part of someone's life would basically lead them to ends on which they may not necessarily want to be part of. So, like we said, we want to solve for the quality of these gaming establishments to be improved for the actual gamer himself. We want them to be represented fairly, and we want this law to be passed or to be regulated more fairly for the unfair insider gaming problem that we have. So basically, the revenue that is already paying for such enforcement on these establishments, and we just have to implement them to a higher standard and poke holes in what is actually is not being regulated. So the vague laws that allow CEOs to take advantage of winning gaming times or just regulating the gaming fantasy services better. So I want to take this moment to ask for a positive vote for regulating gaming services in fantasy sports services. Thank you.
Oh, where you guys from? Oh, nice.
I sat in your room during grad at SF State.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I was
okay.
in the back, I was just trying to be a fly on the wall. I never done it.
Okay. Oh, really? There we go.
First time. That's not cool.
Oh, yeah,
I could have went off.
Yeah, I think our current plan forces you guys to be like, we need to protect these. It's a tough one, man.
You guys laid it down pretty good, man.
Oh, thank you. We haven't been doing how you
I
guys.
like that debate, man.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
good one. I thought it was a
Yeah,
good
it was
one. How
fun.
I mean, some of those you just. How are you guys doing? You know.
2-2 right now?
Oh, really?
Pretty good,
There we
yeah.
go, man. Yeah, we went getting
hammered
one
last
win,
day.
3 losses. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully you guys are great, man. How do you think your speaker points are going to go?
I think fairly
Solid.
well, yeah.
Solid? There we go.
I think we're just, to be honest, I'm just losing on technicalities, lack of experience.
Yeah, dude.
One
This is our
that's-
third tournament.
You know,
That's really
This is
good.
the first
Yeah,
tournament.
exactly.
That's
Next,
really what it
next in 2 more, man, you're gonna be putting it down.
Dude,